What's going on, guys? It's Daniel from CoinSpots here, back from a pretty long hiatus here on the channel. But nonetheless, we're going to get right back into things, right back into these weekly or daily videos during the week, daily podcasts, keeping you guys updated on the market and on the news. So yeah, today we're going to be taking a look at Bitcoin and kind of what's going on with Bitcoin after this flash crash a couple days ago and where I think we will be headed from here. We're going to take a brief look at the altcoin market, touch on some Korean news, and what we can learn from the whole Bitconnect fallout. So yeah, we're taking a look at the 1 hour on Bitcoin here. We are hovering around this zero point 0.5 Fibonacci level here. And we found a pretty good amount of resistance at the $12,000 level. We've got 2 points of contact right here. And actually, if we zoom out a little bit, this $12,000 level here kind of corresponds to um, this resistance back up here. So I mean, we've got 3 points of contact, kind of in the grand scheme of things here. So the $12,000 level is definitely one we're going to want to be watching to see if it breaks. And I kind of drew this kind of pennant, triangle wedge, whatever you want to call it, um, on the 1 hour. So this isn't, by any means a long-term trend. Um, we're seeing some higher lows up here, as well as the steady resistance at 12,000. So I'm going to be watching this little consolidation here to see whether we break on the upside or the downside. Um, in terms of, if I think Bitcoin is going to have, this like crazy run up, right after the dip, because like that's what a lot of people were expecting, um, just by scanning Twitter and Telegram and Discord and all the chat rooms. Really, people were expecting this to just bounce off of the low and skyrocket back up. However, as we can see, it's not doing that. We're just hanging around this $11,000 to $12,000 range. Seeing if we can break 12,000. Now, in the next couple days, what I think can either happen is either Bitcoin is just going to be consolidating around these levels here, finding a good amount of support, or we could see some kind of double bottom form. So if another dip happens to oh boy, maybe later. Come on, Brave, interrupting my video. Um, we could see a double bottom form here, uh, but nothing lower than 9,000. You know, anywhere between maybe 10,000 to 9,500. Um, I don't I don't see this breaking 9,000 unless some crazy piece of news comes out, um, which is interesting because the whole kind of dip or correction that happened this week really had no news associated with it. So, a lot of people were just pretty much speculating what the heck was going on. Like, people were throwing around, like, stuff like the Asian New Year and how, previously on years before, uh, the new year like brought a dip. So like in the beginning of 2016, 2017, and I think 2015, there was a dip in the crypto market. So that whole you know concept just goes to show that no one really knows what the heck is going on with this. Um, I mean, personally, I believe that we had a correction because we were pretty overextended. The last major correction that we had was back in September. And I remember people freaking out about that. Oh no, that was back all the way here. Yeah, where I drew my Fibonacci from. Could just fix that a little bit. But taking a look at this dip back in September, we're on the 4 hour here, and you can see this huge bearish engulfing candle, and that's kind of what I was looking for in Bitcoin this time around. However, and the volume as well. That's another thing I forgot to mention. Really high volume with that bearish engulfing candle. However, here I don't see that candle too much. There's two strong candles here. Two green ones. The volume for me was not high enough to signify a trend reversal. Now that doesn't mean that we're going to go lower. And, even if we do a double bottom, that doesn't mean that Bitcoin's going to break that 9,000 support that we were seeing. It's just that compared to the previous dips, the volume that I see here is just not high enough to signify a trend reversal. And even if we look at the daily chart, we pretty much just see a couple doji candles here. One, two, three. Well, shouldn't call three, at least two here. Because as you see, this huge wick just shows how much support that was going on here at the $9,000 level. So this to me just shows a little bit of uncertainty where Bitcoin's going. There's no or there's not a lot of new money coming in right now as we were seeing on the run up last year. So yeah, we just got to see how this plays out really. Volume is kind of drying up here, and I'll just be watching this this little wedge formation here and pretty much see what happens with Bitcoin. So as I said, I could either see a double bottom or some kind of longer consolidation here for Bitcoin. And if we see that consolidation, alts could definitely have a nice run up. So yeah, moving on to alts here on CoinMarketCap, pretty much everything is kind of just hanging steady. And I mean, that could be just because it's a Friday today, and usually nothing exciting happens on Fridays, at least in the crypto market. But everything is just kind of hanging around its regular price. Not too much money kind of moving into the market. We did see a pretty big surge back into altcoins like right after the dip. I think that was like yesterday. Stuff was up between like 20 to like 80%. I remember Tron was one that was up like 80%. And it's interesting about that because a lot of people, at least those who are relatively in the crypto market, coins like Tron and Verge, there's really no specific white paper. There's no, I mean, there is a white paper, right? The Tron white paper, was, plagiarized some stuff, but these cheap coins, they don't have like the tech behind them to signify this huge market cap really. And a lot of people who are just really into the crypto space know that. However, the fact that these coins are just pumping again right after the dip just shows that the same people who were in the market before the dip are in the market now, right? Because they're going to buy the same coins. They exited Tron probably, right? Because the whole market was going down, so they sold, but they're going to just get back into the same coins. It's the same people. And I just don't think right now there is that influx of new money coming in that we were seeing over the past couple months. So yeah, maybe certain people are holding out, but who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? I think just watching Bitcoin is going to be the it's going to be the name of the game for these next few days to see what happens. So yeah, moving on to news. This kind of broke the other day. Korean, basically Korean government officials were accused of insider trading for cryptocurrency. I mean, it's this is a good article to point out because of the whole, Korean news that was coming out and how Korea wanted to, or Korea still does want to regulate the cryptocurrency space. Um, at one point, there were rumors that they wanted to ban exchanges and stuff like that, but that obviously turned out to be false. It was just kind of a mistranslation of news, coming from Korea and ending up in the United States. A lot of the meaning could get lost there. Um, However, when looking at this news article, for example, it's important to look at it, objectively, because a lot of people, especially those like really gun ho on crypto, are just gonna look at this and be like, yeah, I told you so. Kind of like one of those moments, like the same thing that happened with Bitconnect, right? It's the whole "I told you so," phrase. Um, I think that this piece of news is going to cater to a specific type of people, and they're just going to believe that. And I personally would just take this with a grain of salt because I you don't know how true it is, and people should use stuff like this as more of a data point to their overall strategy, um, because typically what happens is that people look at news, and if it's with what they believe in, if it's in line with what they think, they're going to believe it. But if it's something that they don't want to hear, they're not going to believe it. And that's kind of important to note when taking a look at stories like this, because the same thing that happened with the news of like Korea banning exchanges, which turned out to be false. People wanted to believe that because that was FUD and FOMO, um, but in the end, it wasn't necessarily true. So this is, one of those good, like, controversial pieces that you should always look at objectively and take with a grain of salt, um, because I think people are just too quick to use news and believe it one way or the other, like believe it or deny it based on what they believe in personally. So yeah, I think that was a pretty important point to touch on. Transitioning to another piece from Korea, um, the fact that Korean banks are making a lot of money from crypto exchange fees, or not crypto exchange fees, fees from depositing money from the Korean bank accounts to crypto exchanges. Um, they say oh yes, $200 to $300 won per customer deposit. So it's honestly pretty interesting how crypto is making even institutions a lot of money, and the fact that government wants to kind of put a clamp down on crypto. So this just goes to show like the optimism in crypto and how much of a moneymaker anything around crypto is, right? Because just with exchanges alone, um, like Bittrex and Binance, with their exchange fees, that's like 0.01% or something like that. I don't remember exactly. Don't quote me on those percentages at all. But whatever percent that they have, they're making like $100,000 a day. I think I read on an article. It's probably even more now with the influx of customers coming in. But exchanges are such a lucrative business, right? And even banks now are making a lot of money just by doing the deposits into those crypto accounts. Um, and even more, any kind of company that basically announces that they're going to use the blockchain or tokenize something, right? If you remember Kodak, they said that they were going to be coming out with their own cryptocurrency and their stocks soared like 90%. So it's interesting to see how basically anything around crypto nowadays is just making a ton of money. And that's really important to note because those are definitely opportunities that you can capitalize on. Um, not so much obviously with the bank fees and exchange fees because none of us own exchanges, but in terms of stocks of companies who are implementing blockchain. But as I said, as a whole, it just goes to show how much money there is in the crypto market and how the crypto market affects industries around or outside it, I should say. It's pretty much making money for everybody, and it's going to be pretty interesting to see what countries do with it. You know, um, I think it's pretty similar to the whole marijuana legalization in the United States. Like the amount of tax money that states like Colorado and California and wherever else weed is legalized here, they're making a ton of money off those um, those taxes, right? And in the United States, I'm not sure how it is in other countries, but obviously marijuana was like a taboo. Crypto, I could kind of see obviously it's not the same at all. It's just in terms of something that government doesn't like that could potentially make them a lot of money. So I think this is definitely interesting to note. And lastly, going on to the news of the Bitconnect fallout. Um, so I know I'm kind of late on this. Bitconnect, I think it was like 2 days ago that they announced that they were going to be halting their lending platform. And I mean, it's pretty crazy how how much this affected everybody. Just taking a browse on the Reddit. These are two screenshots here that you know people are posting the suicide hotline and stating they lost everything. It's honestly pretty crazy because as much as us us people in the crypto space kind of were calling this out for a while, the writing was on the wall. The average investor, you know, didn't know that, didn't realize that, and I know some people are going to blame every single individual who invested in BitConnect because it was their decision to do it. However, I think it's important to note that with YouTube channels and the whole BitConnect community promoting BitConnect and saying that yeah, this is going on for the long term, this is great. If you're around all that optimism around about a certain topic, you're going to start believing it as well. And I think that's something that's worthy to note because you know it as I said, people posting on this Reddit were just regular everyday people who were trying to capitalize on an opportunity. Sure, they were I guess trying to do the whole get rich quick thing, but they were seeing that for a lot of other people BitConnect was working, right? I'm not going to disclose any YouTube channels and whatnot, or people who posted on the BitConnect subreddit about how much money they made. But as I said, being around all of that optimism about um, a certain in this case coin, but it could really be anything. When you only listen to one side of the story and that's all you're hearing, you're not going to entertain the other side, or you might not be able to listen to it at all because you're not going to hear other opinions. If you're just hanging out on the Bitconnect subreddit and you're only subscribed to a handful of YouTube channels who promote Bitconnect, you're not hearing the other side of the story, right? And I think that it's it's really important, the same way it's important to get, your news from multiple different sources, um, not from the same company, but maybe five or six, different news outlets. So you get a different opinion on each of them, and take an objective look at everything you're doing, any investment that you're doing. But I think the whole concept of objectivity is really important in life as a whole. When you look at stuff in an objective way, it allows you to see the bigger picture. And obviously, that's harder, or it's easier said than done. But at least for me, I always try to do that. I always try to look at stuff in an objective way and see both sides of the argument, because that's really important when making a decision, especially a financial one. Now, that being said, what we learned from BitConnect is just be wary of centralized coins, and don't believe something if it's too good to be true. You know, uh, BitConnect. It was interesting because they gave back all of their outstanding loans. It says that here, right? Where we are closing the lending operation immediately with the release of all outstanding loans, right? So they gave everyone back their BitConnect tokens, and the BitConnect team took the Bitcoin, right? So everyone is stuck holding their worthless BitConnect tokens now, while BitConnect has everyone's Bitcoin. And that's, the asset that's really worth something. So definitely make sure you do your own research um, when investing in something, for sure. Um, and make sure you don't bank or bet everything you have on it. You know, that's why diversification is very important here. Because just reading the threads on the BitConnect sub forum show that people were pretty much betting on it and putting everything they had into BitConnect. So, as I said, always be skeptical of what's out there, especially with ICOs coming out and stuff like that. Um, and hopefully, uh, this is just a lesson for everybody in the crypto community as a whole. So yeah, so it is. Gonna just be watching Bitcoin for the rest of the day. See what's going on with it. See where it goes. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Um, Stay tuned for some new content coming out on the weekends. Like, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.